And so let's just go ahead and get into the next segment of the show. The first thing that I want to tackle is crime that's happening across the United States of America. Of course, we got to go over to Fort Worth, but also we got to first talk about Chicago. Now, again, I'm not really a fan of talking about what is happening in Chicago. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not that I want to pick on Chicago, but I mean, some of the wildest headlines, and I don't know, maybe y'all should blame y'all news stations. Blame the criminals first. Blame the criminals first, because some of the wildest headlines that I see as far as crime on a daily basis is coming out of Chicago. Yesterday, I had to report on and break down a woman that was basically talking about how she was robbed twice because the criminals stopped and pulled over in a black car, pulled out the pistols, and this is a woman that was a wife, that's a mother and all of that, and she's walking home. They pull out the pistols, they rob her. She go into the street to try to get help. The buses and no cars stop for her. Then the criminals turn back around, not even worried about the police, to go and get her PIN number in order to make sure that they can extract all of the money out of her bank account and her credit cards. It's like the Wild Wild West across America, but Chicago is almost like the poster child and have been the poster child for what crime looks like in the city. And right now, they're having a car theft problem, which raises insurance rates and messes up what it is that people want to do as far as whether or not they can leave their cars parked, so it then messes up economic activity in the city.
We know who's doing some of this stuff. What are we doing about it as parents?
A Chicago alderwoman has simply had enough of the car thefts plaguing Chicago.
And there are certainly more than enough to talk about. Tia Ewing has the shocking number of crimes recorded in just 1 week's time. Tia.
Well, Dawn and Terrence, it was so shocking when I saw the actual number that I had to call over the executive producer to look at it to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Car theft was the highest it's ever been in the city of Chicago last year. But this year, the thieves aren't slowing down. In 7 days, 457 cars have been stolen.
Let's stop there for a second, y'all. Let's really just pause and take that in. In 1 week, okay, so according to the news, it said last year was the biggest year as far as the amount of cars that were stolen in the city. Let me say that again. Last year was the biggest year in Chicago's history. That means ever recorded, in which they've had car thefts on the books. Okay. So if last year was the biggest year that they ever recorded, and this year they're already on pace, and we aren't even a full 2 months into the year, what does that mean? They stole over 457 cars in a week. I wonder if this is just a large gathering, like Mayor Brandon Johnson likes to say. I wonder if we could just call this a large gathering. What y'all think about that? 457 cars in a week, over 65 cars stolen in a day. And shout out to the alderwoman. I actually am a good, she's cool. I had her on the show. And she echoes the sentiment of my heart, because I say the same thing. I know that you're checking this out. Shout out to you. But she said, listen, we know who the culprits are. We know who the people are that's stealing all of these cars. We know what's happening. You know it's your nephew. You know it's your homeboy. You know who's in the hood stealing all the cars. Listen, you can't steal 457 cars in a week and be on track to break a record that was already set as a record of last year, and nobody knows anything. But the culture will then say, well, we don't snitch or we don't say anything. Okay, well then continue to suffer the consequences of your own lack of responsibility and ownership of the issues that's happening within your own community. It's sickening.
This isn't a typical car crash. The white car was stolen out of South Suburban Riverdale Tuesday.
Yeah, we're southbound on the Dan right now for wanted vehicle struck 2 Riverdale police cars.
The car took off. A day later and 15 miles away, this is where it was found. The driver of the stolen car smashed into this red vehicle in the 6300 block of South Stewart in Chicago and tried to get away.
He's running westbound on 63rd.
In the span of 7 days, from January 29th through February 4th of this year, 457 cars were stolen. That's nearly 65 cars stolen citywide every single day.
And then they'll say, okay, well, but this week it's actually down. Because look, they'll point to this and say, well, listen, last year it was 491 around this exact same time of the year. But this week in particular, it was only 457 cars that was stolen. And so that's a 7% decline. You know, we are our own worst enemy. When we don't raise our children to be what we want them to be, when they go outside and tear up it'll be the very ones whose son is in jail or who was out here perpetuating the crime that then will sit up here and rail against and be in your Instagram notes talking about, yo, we need to get tough on crime. It's the police fault. Let's hold the elected officials accountable. They only respond to the crime. They can't prevent it. You prevent it by being an active citizen in your own neighborhood, your own community, and more importantly, in your own household.
Stolen. That's nearly 65 cars stolen citywide every single day.
On the side of accountability, you do the crime, you do the time.
Facts.
That's actually slightly down from the same time period last year. But Alderwoman of the 20th Ward, where this crash happened, says it's not enough for Chicagoans to complain about the problem. There has to be action taken.
This safety plan is just not on CPD in the city of Chicago. This is on all of us as neighbors.
The stolen car crash sent 5 people to the hospital with serious injuries. One of them is in critical. The driver of the stolen car was arrested on scene. Charges and citations are pending against him.
And it's never the person that's perpetuating a crime that actually suffers or, is in critical condition, or they're never the one that actually dies or anything like that. It's always some innocent bystander, somebody that was just trying to go to work, somebody that was just coming home from work. It's always somebody else that suffers the consequences. And then this person winds up getting out on a Safety Act, right? If y'all not familiar with that, that's basically like a no bail, slap on the wrist. Hey, make sure you appear in court. You can wind up doing whatever it is that you want to do when you want to do it. They basically are continuing to empower criminals. And then also on top of that, we know that the budget in Chicago is shot because they're reducing headcount and they're trying to save money because they're still supporting what's going on with the migrant crisis.
The young people who are still in these cars are young people. But let's make it plain. When we look at the videos, you can look at these are babies. We could have caught that baby in 3rd grade, but we was too busy figuring out how many jails we could build for them instead of really giving them the support they need. So that's why.
That's on the parents. I'm sorry, Alderwoman. You know I love you. You know I rock with you. You know you're my homegirl. But it's not about giving them the support they need. It's about holding the parents accountable for having children, and they know they're not supposed to be having children. And it's our cultural norms, and it's the thing that we support. So it's not about catching them in 3rd grade. It's about catching them before they even conceived. If we just gonna be real, it's about catching them before they're even conceived.
Said it's accountability on both sides, and parents know what your damn kids doing.
Facts.
Well, if you want.
But it's not just in Chicago. Let's spin the block real quick and let's head over down to Texas. Because when this story came across my desk, and this is how you know that I'm not just a smoke giver to certain cities, but it's whatever it is that's happened throughout the community that we have to hold each other accountable on, because it's not best for us. And if it's not best for us, then we got to bring it to the front of the congregation. When this came across my desk, and I seen this in my email, it made my heart sink. It really did, because, well, just take a look. You can hear it for yourself. I don't want to describe it. I want you to see it for yourself. And you can see why I start to feel some sympathy and some empathy for the people that didn't even ask to be here.
Allen police say a woman taken into custody this week by SWAT officers during a standoff at a home terrorized her children. What started as an investigation into an assault involving her husband revealed horrific cases of abuse. Fox 4's Peyton Yeager is in Allen tonight with more on the story. Peyton.
Stephen, Allen police tell me they have responded to this Allen home 11 times in this new year. The children, they were removed from the home last month and immediately interviewed. The children told investigators that their mom often would state that she was going to kill all of them.
And this is not like a little rinky-dink in the hood situation. This is a very, very huge, nice home, all brick. Look like it's in a decent neighborhood. And in all communities, there's people that should not be having children. I don't even know how you stop. I guess you really can't. I guess you really can. I guess you just got to let the chips fall where they may.
Inside this Allen home off Tanglewood Drive, police say 6 children were being tormented by their mother, 36-year-old Lowell Top. Top was taken into custody Monday morning after a 2-hour standoff with Allen SWAT. Police were there to arrest her on 6 felony warrants for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for what they say she did to her 6 children. Allen SWAT was called in after Top barricaded herself in the attic. Cell phone video from a neighbor shows Top with her hands behind her back. Court documents show 4 weeks earlier, on January 8th, police and CPS launched a child abuse investigation when Top's husband called them to the home because she was beating him with a stick and that all of the children witnessed it. Top was arrested. The children were taken into CPS custody and Top later bonded out.
And had 6 children and a husband. And it's funny because I just did a video yesterday where I was reacting to a video where a woman was basically saying, listen, just because y'all married don't mean that y'all good people. Just because you married don't mean that you successfully married. Just because you married, that's not a flex if you trash to your children or you're not representing your husband in a good light. Some of y'all just married for the sake of getting married. And this sucker had 6 kids with her, like he didn't already know that she was abusive and she was trashed with the first 1 or 2 in the first place.
The arrest warrant affidavit for the child assaults reveals the terror Top allegedly caused her children. They were interviewed after her arrest for assaulting her husband. They told investigators their mother often drank alcohol, and if she ever ran out of alcohol, she would threaten them. A 3-year-old disclosed Top had tried to put her inside the oven that was turned on.
Jesus Christ.
Police say one of the siblings, a 10-year-old, started physically fighting his mother to get the 3-year-old away from the heated oven. The 3-year-old and her 4-year-old sibling were asked about scars on their body. Both children told investigators their mother used a knife to cut them. They said their mother would become angry and threaten to cut their hands and fingers off with a cleaver knife if they didn't help her find alcohol. One boy told detectives his mother once held the knife to his tongue. Plus, the boy said his mother made him drink alcohol, but he spit it out.
This is crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy and insane. And you know the father knew that this was going on the entire time, right? Come on, man, look, if we're going to be real, if we're going to be 100, if we're going to keep it real, then we got to go ahead and just keep it all the way real. This is not new. These is babies. These is people that did not ask to be here. And the worst part about it is they're going to grow up with these scars in their mind because they can't unsee what their mother did to them. I bet you, considering how liberal we are in the United States of America, that there's a pathway for this woman to get her kids back. Here's the other part of it. They then become a part of, if they don't go over into a family member or if it's not somebody that can actually help them, they then become a part of the system and then they get lost in the system and we don't know what's happening with them or whether or not they're actually sufficient adults once they grow up and if they've really healed from all of these scars that happened to them in their past.
Police say the children took it upon themselves to hide the knives away from their mother.
Jesus.
Always weird stuff over there. The police were always there.
Neighbor William Whitney says just a few days before the standoff, he had a strange encounter. Whitney says Top and another woman knocked on his door and asked to borrow Wi-Fi.
Seeing the kids playing out here by themselves, no supervision, and to know that was actually happening down there is sad.
Top is in the Collin County Jail this evening. Again, she's charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for the violence against the children. Now, I spoke with multiple neighbors who witnessed that SWAT standoff on Monday. They tell me that specific family, they were renting that home in Allen, and they moved in about a year ago.
And she was asking him, listen, if that's not the biggest red flag that if that's not the biggest red flag that I've ever seen in my house, yo, you coming to ask to borrow my Wi-Fi? Now I'm curious, right? I'm really curious as to what they did for a living. Like, yo, honestly, if we just gonna keep it 100, she looked like a crackhead. I know what a crackhead looked like. I know what shout out to Judge Mathis. I know what a crackhead looked like. Looked just like a basehead. And I mean, largely, is a basehead, right? Except for their weapon of choice just so happen to be alcohol instead of crack cocaine. And the children are the ones that's going to suffer from it. And so it's unfortunate. It's something that the children shouldn't have to go through. But, I mean, it is what it is, and it's nothing that I guess that we can do about it. So